Hello, 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 everybody. Da 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 dun da 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 dun 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 dun. It's a wild time out here. Sorry we're so late today. All right. Let's get it going. Hello and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Blind Run on the internet and Matthew in real life. Yes, we are late today and my apologies. Also, yesterday we took the day off. So that's going to mainly impact me, obviously, because I need to make sure that I'm creating all the content for you guys as much as possible. But it also means you guys get behind on news. So I apologize. It affects you as well. Hopefully today we're going to get caught up on everything going on. The biggest news, of course, being the Glacier upgrade that occurred overnight, and that inevitably did, of course, increase revenue in Ethereum. We're going to be analyzing that, taking a look at it, and kind of trying to dig into deep what it's looking like as far as improvements, right? Okay, you guys say that you're getting an echo. Let me see what's going on with the echo and double check it on my end here real quick. Deep what it's looking like as far as improvements, right? You may want to go ahead and check your tabs if you're having an echo and make sure that you don't have the tab open twice. If we get multiple reports of echoes, I'll check again, but I just double checked on my side and it sounds okay. So other things that we're going to be talking about today is going to be crypto miners facing margin calls. We're going to be talking about Compass Mining CEO resignation, and we are going to be talking about influencers who are responsible for 92% of crypto advertisement violations. Of course, that is going to be running into, of course, the Compass Mining article as well. Then we're going to be talking about cryptocurrency titan Coinbase providing geo-tracking data to ICE, and that is extremely concerning given the actual principles of crypto and what they're supposed to be. We have new information from Intel's as far as their ARC GPUs go. And then it is the 6th anniversary for Crypto.com, meaning the centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs quickly while earning up to 8% cash back. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. We're having some difficulties today. I've gone ahead and basically made some modifications to the VPN here, so hopefully we'll be good to go. It is what it is. But let's go ahead and get into the first topic today. Like I said, it's the 6th anniversary special offer campaign for Crypto.com. Up to 4 times special referral rewards, up to $100 accrue for each referral and your friend. So you guys can also refer as well. If you're going to refer, of course, you do have to have know your customer verification. And that is because Crypto.com is a centralized app, and I do not recommend keeping your bulk of your crypto in Crypto.com. That being said, like I've talked about before, the primary use of Crypto.com is to liquidate your crypto assets to pay, obviously, whatever your overhead is, maybe purchasing more equipment, that sort of stuff. That is why they are a valuable sponsor, and they are kind of that intermediary that we currently need between fiat and cryptocurrency. Hopefully, At the end of the day, this kind of isn't as much needed, but they offer obviously the best service, in my opinion, as far as all of that goes. And we'll get into more of why Crypto.com over some of the other options here in a little bit too. But basically, this goes over that and your special referral options. If you've been in it for 3 years, you can get up to $100 per referral bonus. For 2 years, it's $75, and 1 year is $50. And then after June 2021, it's $25. I believe we will be in the 2-year range, so we aren't going to give you guys the $100, unfortunately, but I am going to talk to my my rep and see if we can get a special promo just for us and see what goes on there. I just wanted to bring this to y'all's attention so you're aware. Right now is kind of the best time to sign up with it. All right. So, other than that, obviously, I appreciate Crypto.com. They're keeping us alive in the bear market with their sponsorship, as well as y'all keeping me alive in the bear market by continuing to watch the channel, sharing it out, and of course, those that are supporting on locals. Awesome stuff. Thank you guys for that. So Intel's latest graphics driver for ARC GPUs improves synthetic benchmark performance, but leaves gaming performance in the dust. What's going on here? Intel has released a brand new graphics driver for its ARC GPUs, which focuses purely on enhancing synthetic benchmarks performance and not games. We have been told by Intel officially that Intel's ARC GPU drivers are the main cause of delay for the lineup. The poor software readiness means that although the hardware is already built and ready to ship to consumers, the Blue Team has to delay or launch the lineup in selective regions to avoid any major backlash from the poor performance and software ecosystem. With that said, Intel has released a brand new driver, the graphics beta driver 30.0.101.1743 for its ARC GPU lineup. Mainly the Alchemist high-end mobility GPUs will include the ARC A770M and the ARC A550M. Adding support for these GPUs means that selected regions, mainly China, are going to get laptops and solutions based on these GPUs in the coming days. Besides adding support for the said chips, Intel also adds Game On driver support for a few titles such as Monster Hunter Rise, Sunbreak, F1 2022, and Arcadegeddon. There's also an interesting and new feature that's being included in the ARC's graphics driver known as Advanced Performance Optimizations, which can be enabled through the ARC control panel. This feature is set to improve performance in synthetic benchmarks such as 3D Mark Time Spy and 3D Mark Port Royal. Following is the full description, and they say the gaming highlights is support for Intel A770M and A550M, codename Alchemist, Intel Game On driver support for Monster Hunter Rise, which makes a lot of sense, F1 2022, which not as much sense, and Arcadegeddon on Intel Arc A series graphics cards. Advanced performance options, a new feature now available with ARC Control that allows users to select and enable advanced application optimizations. The initial implementation of the feature only affects 3D Mark Time Spy and Port Royal. Integrated graphics performance as well as discrete GPU game and content creation applications will see no performance impact from disabling the optimizations. Since launch, Intel Arc GPUs or GPU drivers had this feature enabled by default, which increased their overall performance in synthetic benchmarks. You might remember that Intel's ARC graphics initially showed very competitive numbers in synthetic benchmarks against the competition, but failed to translate that into gaming performance. Well, with the toggle, we can now see a more realistic performance demonstration. A user on Twitter provided his numbers, which showed that with the advanced performance optimization disabled, the A380 ends up 15% slower. Also, wouldn't it be better for Intel to have a feature like this for games too and not just synthetic benchmarks? I'm sure gamers play AAA titles more than they play 3D Mark in the real world, except we're talking about development, so this is kind of unfair, right? The idea is probably to test on synthetic benchmarks first, at least if I was putting the crew together and building out the drivers, and then from there, figure out what we learned, because you're still dealing with the same lower level APIs, all that sort of stuff, and translate it into the games, right? So I think eventually what you do see is these features working in AAA games. I don't think that that's just going to be ignored. Like, Intel is incentivized to do that, right? Intel's Arc GPU lineup has so far not showcased any competitive performance numbers. Although it does beat the recently released GTX 1630, it's not that impressive when we compare it to AMD's RX 6400 or NVIDIA's GTX 1650 graphics cards. Furthermore, Intel has mostly highlighted its GPU synthetic performance over real-world gaming performance, and I think that should change, and Intel should provide a more realistic picture of their Arc graphics cards with a proper release schedule and performance numbers that reflect the actual gaming numbers. Once again, like, it seems like it's early enough on with the driver stack that they are trying to figure out how to translate it over to there. So I'm going to give, Intel a little bit of leeway here compared to what WCCF Tech is doing, primarily because I've worked in these situations, in these environments before, and I'm aware of how that kind of testing stack is going to go, right? Should Intel have had better performance before, like, these soft launches, which is at best what I can call them because they're not ubiquitously across all retailers and geographic locations. So it's a soft launch, not like a full-on launch. Yes, they should have. But that being said, like, if you're talking from the driver team perspective, it's also expected because we do know that Intel's new team is AMD and Radeon's old team. And we're aware of what kind of issues they've always had with drivers. Just saying, that's kind of expected from my perspective. Cryptocurrency titan Coinbase providing geo-tracking data to ICE. So like I was talking about, and maybe this comes out, you got to know your customer problems with all centralized exchanges, and that, Crypto.com's not clear of that. But this is concerning because what you have is essentially a cryptocurrency centralized exchange directly participating with law enforcement. And it kind of goes against everything I believe in for cryptocurrency personally from a principled standpoint, especially because cryptocurrency is supposed to be able to break us free from these types of interactions. Not saying, once again, that I condone any sort of illegal activity on crypto with digital currencies or cryptocurrencies, but you don't have to do something illegal to want to essentially protect your privacy and security. And we keep going back to this principle. The problem is also as you push those down further and further down the line, more and more people become in the wrong. And it's just used as a control tactic. And just because a government or an entity says that you're doing something wrong doesn't actually always mean that morally or ethically you're incorrect. And therefore, it's important to provide individual autonomy from these sorts of situations. Let's get into it, though. Coinbase, the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the United States, is selling immigrations and customs enforcement a suite of features used to track and identify cryptocurrency users according to contract documents shared with The Intercept. In August of 2021, Coinbase sold a single analytics software license to ICE for $29,000, followed by a software purchase potentially worth $1.36 million the next month. But details of exactly what capabilities would be offered to the agency's controversial Homeland Security Investigations Division were unclear. A new contract document obtained by Jack Polson, director of the watchdog group Tech Inquiry, and shared it with The Intercept, shows ICE now has access to a variety of forensic features provided through Coinbase Tracer, the company's intelligence gathering tool, formerly known as Coinbase Analytics. Coinbase Tracer allows clients in both government and private sector to trace transactions through the blockchain, a distributed ledger of transactions integral to cryptocurrency use. While blockchain ledgers are typically public, the enormous volume of data stored therein can make following the money from spender to recipient beyond difficult, if not impossible, without the aid of software tools. Coinbase markets Tracer for use in both corporate and compliance and law enforcement investigations, touting its ability to investigate illicit activities, including money laundering and terrorist financing. Once again, they will always utilize fear of some sort of illegal activity to influence people to give up their rights and information. And it's very frustrating. And connect cryptocurrency addresses to real-world entities. According to the document released via a Freedom of Information Act request, ICE is now able to track transactions made through nearly a dozen different digital currencies, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Tether. Analytic features include multi-hop link analysis for incoming and outgoing funds, granting ICE insights into transfers of these currencies, as well as a transaction demixing and shielded transaction analysis, aimed at thwarting methods some crypto users take to launder their funds or camouflage their transactions. The contract also provides provocatively historical geo-tracking data, though it's unclear what exactly this data consists of or from where it's sourced. An email released through the FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, to be clear, shows that Coinbase didn't require ICE to agree to an end user license agreement standard legally that imposes limits on what customers can do with the software. So they can do whatever they want with the software. Essentially, here's a whole bunch of information, or here's a piece of software to track people. We have no end user agreement. You can do whatever you want with it. So it's just, fair game to track whoever they want, whenever they want. Not dissimilar from what we saw with the whole Snowden blow up as it pertains to social media. So just to be clear, it's kind of a similar vein. When asked about ICE contract and the data involved, Coinbase spokesperson Natasha LaBranche directed The Intercept to a disclaimer on its website stating that Coinbase Tracer sources its information from public sources and does not make use of Coinbase user data. That's hard to believe. I mean, if this is kind of the data that they're putting in, and you know that to tie it to a real world entity, you have to have some sort of know your customer piece there, meaning you need to have the actual piece of data that ties it to the real world entity. What is it true that Coinbase is not utilizing their know your customer data to these addresses? To me, it sure feels like it's not. But they say it doesn't, right? As far as LaBranche did not answer questions about how ICE is using Coinbase Tracer, nor if the company imposed any limits to that use. So they're completely ignoring that question. So how are they utilizing it, right? How are they getting the end user, information, the real world entity information? And they ignored it. Coinbase in recent years has made a concerted effort to pitch its intelligence features to government agencies, including the IRS, Secret Service, and the Drug Enforcement Administration, all of which have been, in my humble opinion, the worst entities within the federal government that have displayed the most overreach and the most amount of imposing of their ideals on the American public. The most overreach that we've seen. We can go back all the way to the early 90s for that one. Earlier this month, Coinbase Vice President of Global Intelligence, John Kothanek, testified before a congressional panel that his company was eager to aid the cause of homeland security. Quote, "If you're a cyber criminal and you're using crypto, you're going to have a bad day. We are going to track you down and we're going to find that finance and we are going to hopefully help the government seize that crypto," end quote. Whew. Coinbase's government work has proved highly controversial to many crypto fans, owing perhaps both to the long-running libertarian streak in that community and the fact that these currencies are so frequently used to facilitate various forms of fraud. No, you got the latter correct. Sure. Libertarian streak in the community. In fact, like if you went through the Bitcoin white paper, it is highly libertarian. But to add in that last piece of cryptocurrencies, all cryptocurrency users all using it for various forms of fraud, and that's why they're against it, is incorrect. Okay, let's be extremely clear. That is just you projecting onto the community so that you have a reason to support this type of activity. The Coinbase Tracer tool itself was birthed in controversy in 2019. Motherboard reported that Neutrino, a blockchain analysis firm the company acquired in order to create Coinbase Tracer, quote, was founded by 3 former employees of Hacking Team, a controversial Italian surveillance vendor that was caught several times selling spyware to governments with dubious human rights records such as Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, and Sudan, end quote. Following public outcry, Coinbase announced these staffers would transition out of the company. Homeland Security Investigations, the division of ICE that purchased the Coinbase tool, is tasked not only with immigration-related matters, aiding migrant raids and deportation operations, but broader transnational crimes as well, including various forms of financial offenses. It's unclear to what end ICE will be using Coinbase. The agency could not be immediately reached for comment. Of course they weren't. So it was updated with the Coinbase rebuttal, which we didn't get a lot of information on. And then there was a previous version of this article that you can go check out as well. So what are we learning, right? We are learning that centralized exchanges are basically, ending up being the exact thing that everybody has feared with centralized exchanges, which is basically going to be taking user data, selling it to governments and probably corporations at the end of the day, and using it to violate individual rights and individual privacy and individual security. So under no circumstances should you be basically holding a majority of your finances within Coinbase or any of these centralized exchanges. And once again, we'll say it, we always say it, not your keys, not your crypto. And it gets even sketchier when we get into all the talk surrounding basically utilizing it to track you down. We already know that the Fed is kind of, tightening down the tax ramifications in the United States. This is a problem, obviously, because what they're doing is they're taking the burden of a declining economy and putting it on the working class. And by this, we can see that with, of course, the reduction of reported number being down to $600 that you have to report any move of $600. What can you really do with $600 these days, right? Pay your utility bill, maybe pay a car payment, right? That sort of thing. But, everything above that, you got your rent is going to be well over $600 or for most people. So it's clear that they're putting that burden on the people, and it's a lot less, in my opinion, about the fear of illegal activity and a lot more about the government putting the burden, the federal government putting the burden of their mess up with the economy onto the people. And this is not dissimilar from other transitions we've gone through as far as industrial age, or of course, even going all the way back to the agricultural age and the Roman Empire. This is where we end up. So I do believe the more I read this stuff that we are closer and closer to the difficult times within the digital transformation. OpenC reports email data breach. This is a security issue you guys should be familiar with. An employee at an outside contractor tasked with managing OpenC email newsletters copied the list of customer emails and shared it with an outside party, OpenC says. So whatever email you utilize to sign up, for this mailing list is going to be compromised. You need to watch out for phishing emails, says OpenC, after staff at world's largest non-fungible token marketplace discovered that EmployeeCustomer.io, a platform for managing email newsletters and campaigns, leaked the list of OpenC customers' emails to an outside party. Email newsletter management platforms and customer relation ship management CRM software appeared to be a weak spot for crypto firms as leaks of this data continue to happen at a high frequency. In March, HubSpot, a platform similar to Customer.io, was hacked, affecting BlockFi, Swan Bitcoin, NYDIG, and Circle. Users of these platforms had their names, phone numbers, and email addresses leaked out to an outside party. OpenSea said malicious actors may try to contact OpenSea customers via emails from domains that look similar to OpenSea.io, such as OpenSea.org or OpenSea.xyz. On Twitter, OpenSea customers are complaining of an uptick in spam emails, calls, and text messages. Of course, you're going to be getting those. Now, here's a little different thing about OpenSea. If you're signing up for one of these newsletters, etc., you should always have some sort of, I would reference it as a burner email, right? But not to do illegal activity with, but to protect yourself. You need to put all of that sort of stuff that you sign up with into a separate inbox. That way, you know, this inbox is probably going to be the compromised inbox. And that way, when you go through it, you can kind of like click through it and keep that in mind. There are a ton of different methods that companies utilize for, you know, thwarting any sort of phishing emails, but it's kind of impossible in this day and age because basically you can get that email template just from an email from the company and send it out. You know, if you're getting two-factor authentication is obviously going to play a big factor in all of this. Make sure that you utilize some sort of multi-factor authentication. An easy one that you can employ right away would be something like Authy. Authy's not as secure as I would prefer it to be, so I would suggest a hardware version, something like Yubico, so a YubiKey, or something along those lines to help protect you from that aspect. Obviously, if you're going to be generating a wallet address to hold a majority of your crypto, I advise to do that in a manner where you utilize a paper wallet and you generate it offline and you keep it offline. All this sort of stuff is going to be extremely important. Another thing is, like obviously with NFTs, etc., for the most part, you are utilizing some sort of web browser plugin wallet, right? MetaMask, Yori, Nautilus, ZIL Pay, whatever. The list goes on and on and on. Any of the wallets that are going to be on those devices are susceptible to basically phishing attacks, especially because all it requires is maybe you don't even do it, but you leave your computer unlocked and your kid walks up and clicks something in an email, and then boom, you're compromised on all of your web wallets. It's very important to try to secure those things as much as possible. Phishing attacks are very real, and there are ways to protect yourself. Those are just a few. And more news, Compass Mining announces CEO resignation and naming of interim leadership. Compass Mining is obviously struggling. This is from their main blog, so it probably will sound a little bit more, favorable than the situation really is. I've heard of Compass Mining for quite some time. They wanted to do some advertisement on the channel. I did not finish all of my due diligence in time. It didn't sound like it was something that I could trust from a perspective of wanting to present it to you all as a sponsorship or anything like that. So I kind of just let it kind of die out in the communication with them. I know a lot of other cryptocurrency miners have talked about Compass Mining in the past. They have done sponsorships, they've done interviews. What you just need to be aware of is that this is going to be more common, right, in the space. Like we saw with BlockFi, basically a centralized entity. And like we've seen with a lot of different companies, when we start getting into the bear market, if it's centralized, it's doomed. If it's decentralized, it's less doomed. And that's where you kind of end up from my perspective. Now, in the case of Compass Mining, and obviously we did Pro Direct Mining, which we've talked about, didn't work out for them either. It's not necessarily always something that is being done on purpose. Okay, so I want to make that clear. Like, the failures of the teams are not something that means like there was something nefarious going on or anything like that. It's just the fact of the matter is a lot of people don't plan for these bear markets properly, and they put themselves in a compromised position. And if you're invested with that company, then you are as well in turn in a compromised position. So be very careful, especially in the next bull run, and keep an eye open for stuff like this, because you can start to pick out the entities pretty quickly. Dear shareholders, customers, employees, and the broader Bitcoin mining community, Compass Mining today announced that the board of directors has accepted the resignation of Chief Executive Officer Whit Gibbs and Chief Finance Officer Jody Fisher. Effective immediately, the board has appointed Chief Technology Officer Paul Gosker and Chief Mining Officer Thomas Heller as interim co-presidents and CEOs to lead the company through this period of transition. The board will begin a search for a permanent president and CEO and CFO immediately. Compass Mining was created to make mining easy and accessible. You know, there's always a few things that you should keep into mind. You got like easy, accessible, and then security in this case, right? You can only have two. So if it's easy and accessible, then your security is probably compromised there. And that kind of goes along the lines with like trading crypto as well, right? Within something like Coinbase. We recognize that there have been multiple setbacks and disappointments that have detracted from that objective. Through this restructuring, the company is wholly focused on regaining the goodwill of our stakeholders in the community, as well as delivering on our mission of providing best-in-class service for miners of all sizes. These changes are being implemented to achieve the next level of growth for Compass Mining. Throughout this transition, Compass will continue to provide service and support. If you have any if we can answer any questions, please contact us. And so they leave the contact information there for you guys to check out. So this really leads me into like this influence. I am an influencer, right? I get it. And I take that job extremely seriously, and I do still make mistakes. So I want to make all of this really clear before we get into this next article. Once again, it doesn't have to be nefarious. It's just some people don't see through a lot of the ads, a lot of the opportunities they're presented with, especially in a bull run, when you're getting emails and offers for things like $5,000 to $10,000 coin ads or reviews or token ads and reviews. So if you're an influencer, want to give you a couple hints here. I've made it through a couple, bull runs, bear markets. What I've seen in the past with influencers and so on, you can absolutely destroy your career with one bad ad, okay? And one bad partnership. So it's extremely important, I think, from an influencer's perspective. And I know a lot of you guys watch me, so I just want to give you guys a few tips as far as that goes. The best way that you can prevent a lot of that so you don't end up in a compromised position is to not take the big payouts, but a couple of that are really easy. Completely avoid coin sponsorships and completely avoid token sponsorships and that sort of thing. And what that's going to do is prevent you from getting into any liabilities. There are also other problems, like you guys might remember BitConnect and Trayvon James, that we see these YouTubers go to and influencers go to massive success off of the back of basically what ends up being a scam. And then they suffer the consequences in a bear market. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that's where it comes from. And it's not necessarily that the influencer themselves is doing something nefarious, right? They're doing something that they believe works and is a good idea. And obviously they're influenced by money. And that can be a very, very tricky position to be in. Believe you me, I've made some mistakes. I try to come back and let you guys know when I do make those mistakes, and we make sure that we are as transparent as possible. As an influencer surrounding the space, my number one goal is to be as transparent as possible. That way, if I do make a mistake, hopefully somebody in the community will be like, yo, I think that's a mistake there. And I can look at it and then be like, okay, with an open mind and be like, okay, I think you're right here, right? I think this was incorrect. And unfortunately though, a lot of people don't employ these strategies, and you end up with articles like this, where basically influencers are responsible for 92% of crypto ad violations in India, report says. Violations included not carrying a required disclaimer or paid partnership tag on the ad, which is very important. That's why at the top of the screen, if there is any paid sponsorship, like from crypto.com, it'll tell you up in the top. I also make it very clear that it's a paid sponsorship. Some of the things, once again, as an influencer that you can do is if you're signing a contract and they ask you not to disclose that it was paid, you tell them to pound sand immediately. Okay. If they're like, hey, can you make a dedicated review video? You know, maybe don't mention that it's sponsored or anything. That immediately, no, in the trash. And in fact, like if you have like a long standing like email chain with them or anything like that, I would encourage you to go ahead and expose those people. I've done it in the past before too, where I've exposed a couple of those, because that's extremely dangerous as well as extremely illegal. And just bad for your community. You shouldn't want to do that to your community. Influencers rather than celebrities were behind more than 92% of crypto-related advertisement violations in India between January 2022 and May of 2022. According to data released by the Advertising Standards Council of India, ASCI, a voluntary self-regulatory organization of the advertising industry. Quote, we have taken up a total of 453 ad complaints related to virtual digital currency assets till now. Of them, 447 relate to influencers out of the total 453 ads that were examined. 419 required modifications where duly informed to the influencers, said Manisha Kapoor, the Ad Council's CEO, in an email to CoinDesk. In India, box office, film stars, and international cricketers are seen as celebrities, while those broadcasting on YouTube channels or reaching considerable followings via Instagram are considered to be influencers. ACSI said that most of the influencer ads were a mix of breaching ACSI's influencer guidelines and crypto guidelines in advertising. Some of the ads are still being changed to comply with the law, but the overall compliance rate at this point is 77%. Recently, some of India's biggest film stars, including Amitabh Bachchan, I actually haven't heard of him, but probably different language, Ranveer Singh and Salman Khan have become associated with crypto exchanges through promotions or advertisements during India's most watched events, such as the Indian Premier League, the fast-paced cricket tournament that grips the attention of most of the country for a few weeks every year. Last year, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi led a government meeting about crypto in which a consensus was reached to stop attempts to mislead the youth through overpromising and non-transparent advertising, according to a report. ASCI had earlier said that it wasn't discussing changes to its guidelines on crypto advertisements, but clarifying its position as an important stakeholder on a suggested ban of Indian celebrities and endorsing crypto products from India's markets regulator, the Securities and Exchange Board of India. In February, the ACSI released its guidelines for crypto or virtual digital asset related advertisements that went into effect in April. However, ASCI's guidelines for influencers went into effect earlier in June of last year. Quote, when we examine ads by influencers that are in violation of the ASCI code, and do not carry the required disclaimer or the paid partnership tag or are breaching the ASCI code, we approach the influencer and inform them about the violation. Post this, they need to modify their ad and carry the appropriate disclaimer, Kapoor said in their email. Here's the problem, and I'll be completely frank with you guys. A lot of the people that are doing these types of ads have signed a contract to where they are supposed to not reveal it. So they end up in a very awkward position because they will lose the sponsorship if they go ahead and carry out the proper disclaimers. So you end up, I understand that a lot of these influencers are going to be in a very tricky position, right? ASCI does not have the authority to ban celebrities or influencers from appearing in ads, but its guidelines are considered the blueprint to follow to protect consumer interests. In cases where the brands or influencers do not modify or withdraw ads that are found to be objectionable, ASCI escalates the case to government regulators. Additionally, in case of breach, the standards body publishes the names of those who have not followed the guidelines. Now, obviously, this is in India. There are similar regulations across the world in different geographical locations, and yours may be different. From an ethical and moral standpoint, though, as an influencer, it is your job to protect your audience. And a way that you can do that is making clear that any sort of advertisement for any payment that you've received is stated explicitly. Even if you just receive a free product from a company for review, it should be stated explicitly that you received that product for free. These are the ethical standards I stand by on this channel, and I would encourage all other influencers in the space to stand by those ethical principles as well. It can save you a lot of headache in the future. All right, so crypto miners face margin calls, defaults as debts come due in bear market. Private and publicly listed crypto miners owe up to $4 billion in debt used to finance the construction of gargantuan facilities across North America, according to industry participants and data compiled by CoinDesk. Margin calls are coming for cryptocurrency miners as the bear market continues to claim victims. Here's where things get interesting too. I did want to bring this up. There does come a point where these miners will just not be able to sell you the Bitcoin for the price it's currently at, right? We've dropped down to 19,198. We looked at some of the pricing early last year, and it looked like you could produce a Bitcoin for around 13,000, and that was also not really taking into account infrastructure upgrades, etc. So really the adjusted number from what I've seen has been around 22,000. So we're definitely under that 22,000 mark right now. But as these margin calls happen, they still got to pay. Of course, you'll have that initial liquidation, but then it will come to a point to where everything will settle back out. So you'll have a big dip in the price as miners liquidate everything they can to meet the margin calls. These companies will disperse. You'll have a lot of M&A happening, all that sort of stuff. You'll have a lot of acquirement going, from one mining company buying out another mining company. And then once that's kind of resolved, and the miners that are basically cash flow positive take hold again, it should drive the price back up in relation to the actual cost it takes to mint a Bitcoin. The private and publicly listed crypto miners have racked up debts anywhere between $2 billion and $4 billion to finance the construction of their gargantuan facilities across North America, according to data compiled by CoinDesk and industry participants. As the value of the miners' output dramatically falls along with the price of Bitcoin, they have to make tough decisions about how to survive, including selling off hard-earned coins and equipment. Quote, "It was painful but necessary," end quote, Alex Martini, CEO of mining hosting firm BlockFusion, told CoinDesk regarding the selling of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin reserves to service the firm's debt. Now, BlockFusion has a cash reserve to last about 6 months, but if the market doesn't turn, the company will be forced to do another round of liquidations, he said. And I hate to say it, buddy, but you're gonna have to do another round of liquidations because you did not time that halving cycle properly, my dude. You ended up in a position where you did not get a cash position out during the bull run that was going to last you to the next halving. And that is really where we sit down, especially as Bitcoin miners, and we be honest about what has happened. We look at the history. We are aware of the history. And anytime you see euphoria, you say, boom, get me a cash position to survive the next bear market. And that is where you end up being at if you want to strategically survive as a cryptocurrency miner. We've talked about this before, some of the mistakes I made where I should have put in, a liquidated. It's about, I think I had like 20,000 that's kind of just gone away, right? And I could have used that cash position to further survive the farm a lot easier than now the position I'm in too. So I made that mistake as well. The mistake that I didn't make though, of course, that these ones obviously have much larger debt ceilings and like that debt's going to come due. So they're forced to sell off the cryptocurrency they're mining. Whereas my strategy now is I'm not selling any of the crypto. I'm utilizing outside consulting. I'm utilizing YouTube revenue. I'm doing everything possible that I can do to make sure that I hold all of the cryptocurrency that I mine during this time. And this is it's cyclical. Like I said, you should be able to see it. And if I look at their strategy here and they got, enough cash reserves for 6 months, I look at the timeline. I say, well, 6 months is going to put us into 2023, which is probably going to be the hardest year for cryptocurrency and markets in general that we've ever seen to date. And I don't think that they're going to be able to survive. They're going to have to liquidate. So just pay attention. Block Fusion is far from alone in this predicament. With the Bitcoin price at its lowest level since 2020, global processing power on the networks, or hash rate, near all-time highs, and energy prices climbing, miners' profit margins are shrinking. Older machine models are becoming unprofitable and turned off. The hash rate decreased by 11% between June 12th and June 27th. Miners, once steadfast on their HODL strategy, are now being forced to liquidate their crypto holdings to pay for the operating costs and loan installments. Completely opposite of... It's so frustrating because it's completely opposite of the strategy that you should employ, especially if you look at history. Like, what are you doing? Bitcoin mining revenue in dollar-denominated terms per kilowatt hour has more than halved since the start of the year. Data compiled by Upstream Data President Steve Barber shows. Using newer generation machines such as the Antminer S19 Pros and WhatsMiner M30S Plus can make a big difference because they bring in double the revenue of older models like the Antminer S9, according to Barber's data. Duh. That's the way technology works. Welcome to the digital age, my guy. The miners that use the latest machines and have low electricity prices, less than 6 cents per kilowatt hour, keeping their overall costs of mining a Bitcoin below $10,000, can still make ends meet and fulfill their loan obligations, said Brian Wright, Galaxy Digital's vice president of mining. CoinShares investments analyst Alexander Schmidt told CoinDesk he thinks, quote, the majority of listed miners, end quote, are still profitable even with the price of Bitcoin around $20,000. Miners who don't have leverage and run the new generation machines, and there's some of those in the United States, they're probably still fine in terms of profits, said Jerry Bolovic. And they become better off. Why do they become better off? Let's think about this for a second. Because the miners that are not going to be good are going to liquidate their equipment, which means less hash rate on the Bitcoin network, which means more profitability for the miners that are able to survive this. So they end up being in a much stronger position, right? So who racked up the debt? Adding debt into the equation paints a darker picture. Publicly listed Bitcoin miners have borrowed at least $2.16 billion based on data compiled from June 14th investor note from securities firm B. Riley Financial, and including a $37 million loan disclosed by Bitfarms on June 17th. On the higher end, public and private miners have borrowed a total of $3 billion to $4 billion in loans backed by mining computers, estimated chief economist and chief operating officer of mining firm Luxor Technologies, Ethan Vera. Core Scientific and Marathon Digital are among the most highly leveraged miners based on their debt-to-capital ratios. However, their debt obligations are mostly secured promissory notes that don't mature until 2024 and 2025. Now, that timing is great, right? Because if you are looking at the halving cycle and your debt doesn't mature until the next halving cycle, then boom, like I think you're golden. That sounds good. The capital ratio is an indication of how high a company's debt burden is relative to its equity. The higher the ratio, the bigger the risk. Definitely go check out the link in the description below for a handy dandy balance sheet for all of these large miners, including Core Scientific, Hive Blockchain, Stronghold Digital, Marathon Digital, Hut 8, and so on. Remember, Hut 8's in the worst position, I believe, last time we checked, and we did basically a full-on analysis of this on Tuesday's show, so please go take a look there if you're wondering which public companies you should invest in that are miners. Northern Data, a German hosting firm, has a debt-to-equity ratio of 1.84. According to data reported to the German Stock Exchange for 2020, the highest among miners surveyed by CoinDesk. However, the ratio doesn't accurately depict the company's finances today. Northern Data's head of investors relations, Jens Phillips Bremley, told CoinDesk via email. The miner acquired some of its creditors in 2021, paying off debts, and at the same time managed to reduce a significant portion of its debts through the sale of a 300 megawatt site in Texas. The company has an outstanding debt of $20 million euro, which it expects to pay off by August of 2022, he said. Companies ideally don't tap into their assets to pay off their debts. instead relying on their revenues to cover payments. Many miners are likely not bringing in enough revenue to pay off their monthly debt installments for these loans, regardless of what prices they bought machines at, considering common loan terms, said Bolovic. For example, as the end of the first quarter, Stronghold Digital Mining had outstanding borrowings of $70 million to pay off by the end of the year, but incurred a net loss of $30 million in the same quarter, according to a filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. The miner did not respond to CoinDesk's request for comment on the story. Miners that borrowed money to finance their expansion plans are now having to make tough decisions. Many of those loans are underwater today, and borrowers need significant revenues beyond the financing to remain current. So we always talk about good debt and bad debt, and I always say, don't invest what you aren't willing to lose, and don't take out debt to purchase anything. Personally, I just sold stuff that I had, luckily, that I've accumulated over the 30 years of my life, and got rid of like a ton of, got rid of all my cars, all that sort of stuff to invest into it at a much lower level, obviously. But if you were to, this isn't financial advice. This is like if I think about it correctly, or if I'm thinking about it correctly, maybe you guys can have some insight on this as well. If I look at this, what I would say is when you want to accumulate the debt would be at a time when you're in a bear market, and then get yourself into a position where you're going to pay that off later. So why is that? Well, because obviously the price of miners are cheaper, but interest rates are raising right now pretty significantly. So you're in a very awkward position. I don't necessarily think you should ever take out debt. I'm just saying if you were to, you would want to do it when you can get the most bang for your buck, not when S19s are going for $10,000, but when they're going for $5,000 like they are right now, right? Equipment financing loans like the ones miners take out are underwater when the value of the loan exceeds the value of the underlying asset, such as Bitcoin mining machines. At the height of the market, when Bitcoin was over 60,000, companies were purchasing miners at $90 and $100 and even more per terahash, Bolovic said. That adds up to as much as $10,000 per machine, so he's going to cover it. The larger price tag means that the loan amount was higher. That means that the monthly payments are higher, he said. And if we look at something like BT miners right now, which isn't necessarily always the cheapest. They are about to have a 4th of July sale, by the way. We're going to be talking about this later for you guys too. It's supposed to be a pretty banging one. But if you look at an S19 Pro now, look at this price, guys. $4,650. So we're a 50% drop, right? Look at that. On BT miners, it's down from $14,000 to $4,650. That's absolutely insane. Firms that placed orders for mining rigs at the height of the bull market for peak prices with a significant deposit are now in a difficult spot to follow through, said Jamie Leverton, CEO of Hut 8 Mining. In due course, we'll see some defaulted loans, unclaimed miners, and acquisition targets, Leverton said. Miners that were 100% financed are less than 2 years old and are small without beneficial economics are likely to be the first ones to see defaults on the associated loans, said Von Hughes. Miners' difficulties in paying their installments engender risk for the overall ecosystem as they leave lenders exposed to defaults. Hut 8 Mining's Leverton says she expects miners to go into arrears. Miners have to prepare for the bear market during the bull times. That's what we were saying earlier. Think about how to manage the cycles, treasuries, and balance sheets, she said at CoinDesk Consensus 2022 conference in Austin, Texas last month. According to Van Hughes, lenders BlockFi and NYDIG have given out horrible credit that miners will have a hard time repaying given current market conditions. These companies do not disclose how many mining loans sit on their balance sheet, so it's hard to estimate how exposed they are. Man, guys, and when we talk about BlockFi, this is one where obviously I made the mistake. We made a video about it early on during the bull run, and I apologize for that, and we corrected it. But when we look at the fact that BlockFi is in an interesting position because what they were getting people to do is basically put in cryptocurrency, and then they were taking that cryptocurrency and they were loaning it out to miners. That's essentially what was going on. So now you're in a position where you have these high interest rates, which is how they were going to be able to pay the users out. And you have a whole bunch of miners that are going to default. Well, when they default, what happens to all of your funds that are in BlockFi? Poof, gone. So if you still have something in BlockFi or NYDIG, I'd recommend, and this isn't financial advice, right? Things could change and I could be completely wrong. I shouldn't say I recommend. What I would do, what I have done, is pull all of my funds out of BlockFi, right? Because it's not even, once again, we go back to this entire concept of it's not even the intention of BlockFi to mess up and or do anything nefarious. It's just the fact of the matter is that they loaned out a bunch for overpriced miners to miners that can't afford to pay it back during a bear market. That's pretty much where you end up. After days of speculation over its finances, including a supposedly leaked balance sheet that purported to show the company suffered a net loss of $221 million amid 2021's bear market, BlockFi announced it got a $250 million credit line from FTX. Many called it a bailout because it is. The lender has not responded to CoinDesk's request for comment on this story. Companies like Celsius, BlockFi, specifically BlockFi and even New York Dig, or when they were financing people at 75 to 80% LTV loan to value at $65 per terahash or higher, many of them were much higher, towards $80 a terahash, have built horrible credit for the industry because all those loans are underwater today, Van Hughes said. Loan to value ratios are used to assess the risk of a loan by comparing its value with that of the underlying collateralized asset. The higher the ratio, the higher the risk, which often translates into higher interest rates. Broadly speaking, in the past couple of years, interest rates for equipment financing loans for Bitcoin miners usually are in the double digits, between about 10% and 19% publicly traded miners filing with the SEC show. For comparison, even after recent increases, home mortgage rates in the US run in the low to mid single digits. An $80 price tag for a terahash of mining power looks high, considering that application-specific integrated circuits are now selling below $60 a terahash, and it's actually lower, right? What are we getting over here? Let me get this calculator up. If we don't, right, so let's go over here, 4,600 for 110 terahash. So 4,650, right? Or do this backwards. Is this right? Divided by 110. So you're talking about right now on BT miners, which is not necessarily a cheap site, right? They aren't doing it in bulk or anything. This is the best site, obviously, if you're a home miner or somebody that's smaller trying to get stuff. And you can check out the affiliate link down below. And clearly they are a sponsor. All that out of the way, I'm getting the pricing from them. They're $42.27 per terahash right now. That is much, much, much lower than what most of these people were taking loans out. And it's a retail site, which means they have more overhead. Okay. You end up in a very precarious situation here because, like, who are they going to sell those miners to? Like, they're not going to sell them out to other people because they'll just go to BT miners and buy them from there. Right. Like, they would take such a massive loss on that underlying asset. It's not going to be good. They're going to have to hold on to it. They need to be in a cash position where they could handle the bear market if they were purchasing miners. At least if you purchase miners at $80 a terahash with cash, you don't have this problem. But this is where you end up, right? And so I want to make it extremely clear that this is kind of what's going on and is much lower than even what they're reporting over here, even though this came out today. That suggests now where only the initial loans give out risky, but the value of the underlying asset has significantly decreased, right? So some lenders took on more risk than others in terms of protections that they have in place in cases of defaults and how they calculated LTV, Wright said. LTV can be calculated with the value of Bitcoin or machines at the time of the loan is given out. But a lender should consider what the actual liquidation price will be when the time comes, he explained. BlockFi and New York Dig were given out very large loans while quite late in the cycle, said another industry insider who did not want to be named while commenting on other companies. This would mean that the price per terahash and therefore the monthly installments are higher. There are lenders in the market that are very exposed and very worried, the insider said. BlockFi declined to answer a list of specific questions from CoinDesk. Who do you think's very, very scared, who just took out a huge loan from FTX, who obviously has also been behind the Celsius shorts? Somebody's playing favorites over at FTX too. Look, I can't make any valid accusations there, okay? That's fair. I don't have any proof other than these two factors. One, they're intentionally trying to short Celsius. And then two, they are giving out massive loans to BlockFi. It's bailing them out, essentially. This is just all turning back into traditional finance, especially as it pertains to these centralized entities. Do not support these people in participating in these types of activities. It's just so frustrating. Chief Risk Officer Yuri Mushkin said that the firm runs a diversified lending business to the crypto ecosystem, of which mining-backed loans are only a portion. Mushkin added, these mining-backed loans are collateralized and we follow the same prudent risk and underwriting practices that we implement across the rest of our institutional business. Yeah, because you are just basically trying to force crypto into the same bucket, the same square that everything institutionally is already done. And the entire point is that wasn't working. So why are we trying to do that with cryptocurrency, right? The New York-based lender signed off a $70 million loan for Argo blockchain in March and a $37 million credit line for Bitfarms on June 14th. Along with the loan, Bitfarms said it was selling off 1,500 Bitcoin. Just a week later, the miner said it had sold another 1,500 Bitcoin to pay off its other debt from Galaxy. So they're selling all this at massive losses. TeraWulf also took a $15 million loan in the form of convertible promissory note on June 13th. If the economics don't change, it's just a matter of time until some miners default, while at the same time lenders have relatively little recourse to save themselves because the value of the collateral, usually mining machines or Bitcoin, is dropping every day, the insider said. Celsius recently halted withdrawals for customers without much explanation, triggering investigations from authorities in several U.S. states. BlockFi, like Celsius, was working with funds raised from depositors, which means that it has to pay them back, whereas New York Dig raised money through equity, so it will just take longer for it to recoup those funds, said Van Hughes. Only about 6% of Galaxy Digital's $5.3 billion assets are related to mining, or $301 million, which would normally include loans receivable, according to a quarterly earnings report. The filing also detailed that the firm has prepaid $89.9 million in mining expenses and deposits, leaving about $211 million that could be the lender's exposure to mining loans. A spokesperson declined to comment on the figures. Miners have been selling Bitcoin to exchanges at record paces. In May, Bitcoin miners sold over 100% of their monthly production, compared to 30% between January and April, said Jaron Mellerud, senior researcher at Arcane Research. On-chain information platforms like CryptoQuant and Coinmetrics have noted record flows of coins from miners to exchanges over the past few weeks. This is not necessarily an indication of selling. It could mean the miners are staking their tokens or preparing to sell, Wright explained. With tight liquidity, miners that pledged Bitcoins they mined as collateral to get equipment loans might not be able to monetize them for anything other than paying off their debts. In these cases, the collateral is likely held by the lender and will only be sold in the case of a margin call, Bolovic said. This was the case for Block Fusion, which had a margin call at $29,000, according to the firm's CEO. A margin call occurs when the value of a borrower's collateral falls below a certain threshold determined in the agreement with the lender. In that case, the borrower has come up with the funds to exceed that threshold. If they just called me for a little bit of advice and they asked me, what would you do if you were basically setting yourself up to borrow and what's your threshold? I would say definitely my threshold is down around 20,000, right? Like I don't want to be liquidated till then or get a margin call till then. Block Fusion had to choose between posting more collateral or selling its Bitcoin, Martini said, adding that most miners he knows lost their collateral. At the same time, firms that raised money by taking on debt or diluted their stock by issuing more shares have restricted their ability to grow at this time because they have to either post additional collateral or liquidate their Bitcoin holdings, said Matthew Schultz, executive chairman at CleanSpark, a Bitcoin miner that bought existing contracts for 1,800 machines this month from another peer. We were presented with the same opportunity as everybody else, Schultz said. CleanSpark had the chance to leverage Bitcoin for the benefit of a little bit of cash flow and then to see competition raise to the point that it becomes almost unrealistic, he said. But the company avoided that and has the second lowest debt to capital ratio among surveyed miners. To secure a $35 million loan from a venture capital fund earlier this year, CleanSpark instead collateralized its Bitcoin mining rigs. Bitcoin miners that posted their machines as collateral are faced with a different set of problems. With miners looking to offload their machines for much needed cash, the prices of ASICs have significantly dropped. Ideally, miners would sell older machine models, but there is no market for them at the moment because they're unprofitable, said CleanSpark's Schultz. So they are forced to sell newer equipment or leverage their Bitcoin. Rack space is a limiting factor for those looking to buy up rigs. If a firm that mines for its own account went bankrupt, it couldn't mine at its site because it would be out of cash. So even if a lender wanted to take over the machines, they would have to find a hosting site to plug those machines in, Van Hughes said. But all hosting sites are maximum capacity right now, he added. One US-based mining hosting firm told CoinDesk that it has been getting an increasing number of calls from near-desperate miners looking to house cheaply bought rigs. But the host's facilities are completely full, so it can't take any of the offers. In an even more precarious spot are mining firms that took out loans secured with future orders, meaning contracts for machines that have yet to be delivered. These miners have to pay off rigs that aren't making them any money at the moment. Lenders and borrowers saddled with big loans against purchase orders are in a tough position because not only has the value of the machine significantly dropped, but the equipment is not even in the US at the moment, Wright said. I don't see how you can survive that, Van Hughes said. Some miners may have to take on additional loans to buy rigs for which they already put deposits. A sample set of public miners still owe $1.9 billion this year for ASIC purchases that they've committed to, said Galaxy Digital's head of mining Amanda Fabiano during a panel discussion at Consensus 2022. Regardless of what collateral miners used, its value has decreased in the past few months, Galaxy Wright said. I haven't actually seen a big difference between miners that pursued Bitcoin-backed loans as opposed to ASIC-backed loans, and I don't think you would, right? You wouldn't want to set either one of those up unless you're, of course, doing it now. But then, of course, there's the problem with space, but that space should open up as well, too, because basically we're going to have a whole bunch of miners that default and can't run their miners anymore, try to sell them all off, and then you end up at eventually having the opportunity to buy buildings that are already ready for you to set up a massive amount of mining rigs. So once again, the opportunity is here and now, right? Industry source to whom CoinDesk spoke agreed the industry will consolidate in the coming months as weaker players are forced to offload assets. This will not only bring opportunity for the other players in the form of cheap ASICs, but will make it easier for those still participating to mine Bitcoin. As less efficient miners go offline, the lower network hash rate will directly benefit high efficiency machines with low shutdown prices. That's what we were saying earlier as well. The difficulty of mining a Bitcoin block and reaping the rewards automatically readjusts to keep the time required to around 10 minutes. The higher the network hash rate, the higher the difficulty. The next difficulty adjustment is expected to make it easier to mine a block as miners have dropped off the network. And this is also happening with Ethereum that we're going to be talking about too today. Mining rig deliveries are still coming online, which will drive up the hash rate later this year, said CoinShares analyst Alexander Schmidt. At the same time, rising natural gas prices are putting additional pressure on margins for companies like Marathon Digital and Hut 8 that rely on this resource. And that's a new one that I wasn't aware of that I need to research, and we'll get into that maybe tomorrow. Miners powered by 100% renewables may benefit from lower competition. Moral of the story is pay attention to the halving cycle, especially if you are looking at buying off of credit. And secondary to that is, like, obviously from my perspective, I don't want to buy off of credit. I want to buy off of cash. Of course, cash flow at this time is extremely difficult. So what do you end up doing? Do you end up trying to liquidate your cryptocurrency to buy hardware, or do you wait for that price to go up because you're in a weird position where right now hardware pricing is the best, but also the revenue you're making is the worst. So you end up in a very precarious situation. I know I'm working on power first right now, and I think this is a great time to be doing it because obviously shutting down rigs and stuff like that to move them and whatnot is kind of the best time. So that's where I'm at right now. I'd like to hear some of y'all's thoughts too. We'll get into that in the question and answers. All right. So Gray Glacier upgrade did happen last night, and it was around 3 or 4 a.m. And that was basically Ethereum scheduled upgrade at block 15,050,000. It happened not on the 29th, but on the 30th, late in the evening or early in the morning. Excuse me. And now you end up with a position where what this was a delaying of the difficulty bomb to mid-September of 2022. For miners, this obviously means that the difficulty goes back down, and then your revenue and profitability goes up. It's a little early to tell how good revenue is going to be, and you're going to have to give it a couple days. We can get some ideas on what's happening though. A very interesting one that people are asking me about, of course, is this huge dip in hash rate. So you need to understand something. When an upgrade like this goes in, everybody is required to upgrade their nodes. Now, what do mining pools need as part of their setup, and what do miners need? They need a node to mine to. So when you see a big dip off of hash rate like this, well, what you could basically assume is not necessarily that the hash rate is going off the network, to be clear, because you can see it start to recover now as we just refresh the page and it's back up over 800 terahash a second, but that mining pools have not upgraded their nodes, and miners that are solo mining have not upgraded their nodes. We can see if this is the case by utilizing something like mining pool stats and scrolling down and seeing how many pools are still offline. And as you can see here, we have all of these pools that are still at invalid block heights. What does that mean? That means that they didn't upgrade their nodes. Okay, so this hash rate's not going on and reporting to the network. Now, the difference between the hash rate here and the hash rate here is this one will still record, of course, some of the nodes that aren't upgraded, right? So down here, you can see we have some like 20 gigahash still showing here, whatever it is, right? And other nodes that haven't upgraded. Here's more of what's happening on the actual network, showing around 777 terahash. If we refresh, we should be, okay, well, it's still showing 777. So essentially what we have is not necessarily a decrease in hash rate due to necessarily actual miners turning off, but either just laziness or complete just not technical difficulties for upgrading nodes. So I want to make that clear so everybody's kind of on the same page. I wouldn't expect the hash rate to stay low. Also, if you're moving back to Ethereum from another network, make sure that the pool is upgraded on their node. You can do that once again by heading to, of course, the mining pool stats and making sure that they are, you know, not in this case of invalid block heights, right? So that's pretty much what you can do as far as all of that is concerned. So then what else did it result in? Well, it resulted in a significant decrease in the network difficulty, which is expected. We went down from 14.22 to 12.66. What's the relevance in this? Well, the less amount of difficulty, essentially, the more likely you are to be more profitable or generate more revenue. So you should start seeing more revenue come into, of course, your Ethereum wallets from your miners. This is all good news. Now, I did have a question that was asked on Twitter as well, I believe by Rabid Mining, and that was due to the block times. So let's go get the block times are still over 15 seconds. Well, why would that be? Well, block times are in direct correlation to the hash rate. So if you have more hash rate coming on the network, your block times can be decreased. If you have less, you know, more of it coming off of the network, then your block times are going to increase. So we did decrease the actual block times by about a second. It was expected to be more around 14 seconds. However, due to nodes not upgrading, miners hopping off, continue to, you know, go down that equation, you end up having higher block times. What does this mean for the Ethereum core devs? If the hash rate stays off the network, then there will be some concern about this difficulty bomb delay not being enough, okay? And that is because really, this was supposed to get under 15 seconds. It's still above 15 seconds. Hash rate's not being added onto the network. Miners are liquidating their equipment, not continuing to mine on the network, and you end up in a situation where you have higher than expected block times. This is why the delay was done. But however, like I said, it's maybe not enough, right? So it's too little and maybe even too late, right? So they need to probably delay again, to a certain extent, right? Just to reduce these block times. Now that's going to have to be reviewed tomorrow. We'll take a look again, see if some of this hash rate recovers. My assumption is by tomorrow, we should be around 900 terahash on the network. I think we will see that recovery, and the difficulty will probably be around 13, right? P. So I would expect this difficulty number to go back up above 13. Let's refresh this. It's kind of leveled out at 12.37. And I expect this number to get back up to around 900, right? Somewhere around there. So that's what I'm seeing. You're going to see higher hash rate times at night as well too. Right now we're in the heat of the day, right around noon. So now's really going to be like the lowest that we see. All right. So what else do we got as far as this goes? We're going to go into mining profitability and then questions and answers. I'm going to run the ad real quick. Once again, huge shout out to crypto.com for keeping us alive in this and letting me remain as ethical as possible with the advertisements for it and making you guys aware of how all of that functions. Today's sponsor is crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs quickly while earning up to 8% cash back. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking, to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. Go. Alrighty, welcome back everybody. We unmuted, so we're good there. I still have a few rigs offline. We're working with about 14 rigs and 11 gigahash a second. I do got to go out to the farm, and we'll be talking about that later. I'm probably going to be moving some stuff back to Ethereum. That being said, the profitability on Ergo and Neta has not been bad. This could be attributed to multiple factors, including, of course, the move back from a lot of miners back to Ethereum. As far as this goes, though, if we only did the payments for the last 24 hours and didn't include the unconfirmed balance, which I still don't have a full understanding of that, but it would say that payments over the last 24 hours was $69. That being said, like, we can click into here. I'm still trying to figure out, because I am getting more Neta than I expected, right? So I had just liquidated Neta yesterday. And we already have like 29,000. So I think some stuff is a little jacked up with the payments and so on. But if we hit the earnings, see, it says we only did 4,000 Neta yesterday, but I know I liquidated, so I know I did a lot more than 4,000 Neta yesterday. So I'm a little confused as far as like this payout timing and when it gets confirmed and add to the daily earnings. I'll try to get some clarification on that for you guys from Neta, but as you guys can see, we have 26,000 since yesterday, which would have been $128. So I'm not actually sure at all how much we're earning right now, because 26,000 in 24 hours is what's been put into the wallet. Almost 27,000 Neta. Either way, I'm happy with it right now. That was a pretty good day. Let's talk about mining profitability according to what to mine. Don't base everything off of this. We have corrected, though, of course, the ZIL hash to 110, Capal to 60. ProgPow to 60 and Firo to 60 at 10 cents a kilowatt hour and RTX 3090. That puts the Xano in first at $1.69 in revenue and 90 cents a day after power. It puts Ravencoin at $1.63 a day in revenue and 84 cents a day after power. It puts Ethereum at $1.62 a day and 85 cents after power. But is that accurate? And see, we have conflicting issues because we have different APIs pulling different numbers, etc. Because if we look at a 3090 at 10 cents a kilowatt hour here, which is at 121 megahash a second, we're seeing $1.68 a day in profit. Okay, and then if we look at Hivon Pool, right? Hivon Pool saying $1.58 a day per 100 megahash. So to me, it looks like What to Mine's way behind. It looks like Miner Stats caught up and Hivon Pool have caught up. So where you pull your data can be extremely difficult to calculate. This would definitely put me more profitable on Ethereum right now, like extremely more profitable, I believe, than on Neta. Well, at 4 gigahash, it would be 63. Maybe not. So if we got up to 5 today, 78. If we got everything online, 94. It may not be at all, actually, more profitable. Unless this is off or this is off compared to that. Hold on, let me do this math out real quick. It would be 5,000 divided by 100 times $1.58. That would be 79 bucks a day. So still not more profitable than Neta for me, actually, from these numbers, but we'll have to actually run it out and see. Maybe we have to put a couple rigs on, but it is more profitable than what to mine is showing, which is 85 cents a day after power. So things are a little like in transition. This is kind of where it's at. You're going to have to run rigs on it. You're going to have to figure it out. I'm going to have to do that. That's part of what my plan is today, is to go out and figure that out. I'll probably make a video for you guys later this evening on what I find, or tomorrow we'll talk about it on the live show. Let's look at the hash rates and everything though for networks. Bitcoin, let's see, we're at 220 exahash a second. It's remaining steady. We had another difficulty drop on that. Let's take a look at Ethereum. We already did, so let's do Ethereum Classic. Let's see if people are moving off of these networks back to Ethereum. We had a little bit of drop, about 1 terahash off of Ethereum Classic, probably onto Ethereum. Let's take a look at Ergo. Ergo has definitely had a drop, but only about 1 to 2 terahash a second, but a significant drop on difficulty. Probably why we are seeing that nice little increase in profitability or revenue on there. Let's take a look at Flux. Flux is at 1.45 mega solutions a second, so actually up a little bit from Tuesday. Ravencoin, let's take a look. 3 terahash a second, no real changes. Mining pool profitability, past 90 days, Crazy Pool in first, Ether Mine in second, F2 Pool in third. Last 60 days, ZET in first, Ether Mine in second, Crazy Pool in third. Last 30 days, ZET in first, Crazy Pool in second, Ether Mine in third. Last 21 days, ZET in first, Crazy Pool in second, Ether Mine in third. Last 14 days, ZET in first, Crazy Pool in second, Ether Mine in third. Last 7 days, ZET in first, Mining Pool Hub in second, Crux Pool in third. Last 3 days, ZET in first, Mining Pool Hub in second, Ether Mine in third. And for the last day, ZET in first, Crazy Pool in second, and Mining Pool Hub in third. Now, we are going to look at this, but we want to look at miner stat again and the ASIC miners. Let's see. So the L7 still remaining most profitable at $19 a day. KD6 second at $17.64. KD5 at $10.99. The Handshake is more profitable now. The HS3 is at $11.18. That's an interesting change to note. I'm not sure what the Antminer B7 is, but I also need to look into that. It's BTMC That's interesting. If we scroll down to the S19 Pro, it's at $3.04 a day. Make sure that you are upgrading your firmware to the new Hivon one, because that will put you at $5 a day after 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Sales galore on BT miners, so definitely check it out. It's going to be July 2nd through July 4th. Here are some of the deals. You'll be able to get an L7 plus a V1 mini ETC for $15,799, or an iPolo Classic plus a KD Box Pro at $82.99. Make sure you use the affiliate links down below. The KD Lite plus the V1 Mini plus ETC at $9,649, or the Mini ETH iPolo V1 plus the V1 Mini Ethereum Classic at $33.99. So there's some pretty good deals coming in. Obviously, some of the really cool ones is the V1 Mini Classic has dropped to $790. That's 130 mega hash a second for $790. I think that is still, now that is only Ethereum Classic, to be clear, right? I think maybe Ubeak. I'd have to go double check on that one. The relevance of that is, I think, like, if you are going to be doing Ethereum Classic, it's kind of nice because that is cheaper than 130 mega hash on a 3090 or a 3090 Ti right now. Probably still not the best. We're going to see more price cuts here too coming soon, so maybe wait till the July 2nd sale, see what these all come down to on their individual prices if you're looking at purchasing one. S19 Pro, though, down to that $42 per terahash. I'm excited to see what that sale will be at. The KD box is down to $14.77. We are starting to get into that buying time, right? We got the 520 mega hash Jazz miner at $4,900. We got just everything kind of dropping down. The LT5 down to $2,800. L7 still pretty high, $14,900, but obviously with that sale, I think you're going to get, yeah, the L7 plus the V1 Mini at $15,799. So there you go. Sale coming in. I'd expect some more of these. BT miners has been good to me as far as shipping stuff. So, and they were a sponsor for the channel. So obviously, all disclaimers out of the way. Let's get into questions and answers. Remember, super chats are always appreciated, never required, first to be answered, because they're the easiest to read for me. That is the primary reason. Tagging at Son of a Tech will turn the message orange for me, so I'll be able to read it much easier. We already have a super chat that came in from Sergeant Amos, so thank you for that $5 super chat. He says, have you seen the iPolo ETC ASIC miner? And yes, that's what we were just talking about. Good news too, within the next week or two, I am getting one shipped for review. Now, I'm not getting to keep these miners, but I do get to review them. So I'm trying to get at least a couple weeks with the miner to make sure nothing breaks on them, but we will have a review for the iPolo Ethereum Classic miner coming in here soon. So if you're interested in that, make sure you're subscribed and that notification bell's turned on, because if the notification bell's not turned on, you don't get notified when we get it. So, all right. MC says, sick shirt. Thank you. BC Vault sent this shirt over in one of their hardware wallets. So I have one of those. And it's the crypto.com branded one. So it actually didn't come, the shirt actually came from crypto.com. They had some sponsorship or some partnership deal. Anyways, Miller Mining Company says, Ask Tech, can you explain why the swap price for Netta to Ergo is around 0.005 and its buy price on a Netta BTC Livecoin watch is 0.01? I'm looking at the same tokens, or yeah. So what you're looking at more than likely, first of all, you're looking at two different networks. So Livecoin watch, you're probably looking at a Netta on Cardano, the token price on Cardano. And on Ergo, you're looking at the token price on Ergo. Right now, there's not really a shift between the two, to my knowledge. So once we have like a bridge to where you can bridge over the Netta to Cardano, then we're going to see a huge rise from my understanding. And I could be completely wrong. Let me know. But you should see a huge rise in the trade price for a Netta on Ergo as people realize that connection. Okay. So that is something where, like me personally, not financial advice, I'm holding all my Netta. I'm converting 50% of it to Ergo. I'm adding it to liquidity and I'm holding, right now. Ted Park, thank you for the $10 Canadian, says, what is the maximum temperature in your farm where everything still works? About 100 and, well, it'll keep going all the way up to like 140 degrees Fahrenheit and everything still works right now. But I have other one. I say everything. That's with a lot of stuff turned off as I'm repurposing them. So I don't have a complete accurate answer on that, to be completely honest. Gandalf Gray says, Tech, what do you think about Compass not being able to pay their electric bills and shutting down facilities? We went over a lot of this earlier today, Gandalf. So if you could go rewind, we talked about Compass. We talked about mining companies shutting down. And, you know, to a certain extent, like all of that is expected, right? I mean, this is the bear market, and a lot of people, like even including myself, we did not plan it out perfectly, right? And that's the way it goes. Gandalf Gray says, Tech, my Ergo profits are up. Is it because people are moving back to ETH? Well, not necessarily. That can be obviously a contributing factor. I don't know that that's the contributing factor right now. It is clear due to on-chain analytics that we took a look at earlier that we have a decrease in the Ergo difficulty on the network. So that is definitely a contributing factor there. That usually does relate directly to hash rate, but because of the way Ergo works with its difficulty adjustment, it's always delayed a few days. So whatever difficulty we're seeing now is a result of something that happened a few days ago. Now, miners could have already been moving to ETH, though, to prepare themselves for, of course, this move, and that could be where we're sitting at. Dr. Mobius says, Tech, am I going to be penalized for pool hopping by mining pool for turning off and taking advantage of cheap electricity at night? So most mining pools are going to be 6 to 8 hours. You want to mine for 8 hours and then you get like full rewards. But yes, you typically are penalized. If you pick a smaller coin, that could be a better strategy, and building your own node for that smaller coin, that could be a better strategy. Alex says, Tech, looks like less than 1 million NETA left in the subpool smart contract. Yeah, it's about to run out, which is part of the reason why, personally, I might not pop off of NETA just yet and go to Ethereum. I might stay on NETA for the rest of that. I do not know if they're going to up that contract more. I haven't gotten notice on that. But there is something else in the works. I've talked about it on Locals if you want to go check it out, but there is a similar thing coming for another token on Ergo that could be better. Kirby says, rip Flexpool. Is Flexpool down due to the merge? Or not the merge, but I see Flexpool up. Are they not working right now? I see Flexpool's node looks good to me, so I'm not sure on that one. Let's see here. I want to say thanks for the super chat sticker for $4.99 PLN. Remember, stickers are the best for the algo, so I definitely appreciate that a lot, at least as of right now. Let's see. So what other questions do we got? LZ says, Tech, is it right that 2Miners difficulty chart shows that difficulty is now at a level comparable to March 2022, or is there difficulty still dropping? Like I said, I think the difficulty will go back up to about 13 over the next 24 hours as all the nodes are updated. Raymond says, Tech, how is your 3090 running in the new Octominer cases? I do not have enough of my Octominer cases to have moved them over yet. Probably going to move about 4 more over today. Or 4 of them over to the, I only have 2 new Octominer cases, the by 8s. I'm supposed to have a whole bunch of by 12s coming in, and then I can move some of the 5700s over there. We're actually going to be talking about it a little bit in, I think, a vlog that I did record yesterday. Martin says, Tech just shut down 7 gigahash, have been mining at a lost dollar for a month. Time for cleaning. Left a 3x12 card rigs on to be in the game. Good luck, everyone. Good luck, Martin. Sorry you're having to shut down. Max Barbell, says, Tech, I'm having some troubles with my bank making deposits to exchanges. Do you know of any crypto-friendly banks, or are you just using the exchange credit card? I use the exchange credit card. Wuchin says, hi, at Son of a Tech, did you manage to get stable overclocks with R mode with your 5700 XTs? On some of them, yes. The ones I just actually swapped into, anything in an octo miner seems to work great with R mode. Anything out of an octo miner does not seem to work great with R mode, and I do not know exactly why. Kirby the Kirby says, at Son of a Tech, just meant FlexPool's profits been killed the last few months. Maybe not finding enough blocks? I don't know. Raymond LB says, as Tech, do you plan to put your 39ers in Octominer cases? Everything in the farm's going into Octominer cases. Mining Potato says, as Tech, will there be ERG ASICs? That is a question that I asked in my interview with Kushji, and he did not say that he would be opposed to it. He said, whatever kind of happens, happens. That being said, I think they are adjusting their perspective on that thanks to the support that we've shown them as GPU miners. So continue that support. And remember that miners do have voting power on Ergo. That being said, voting power to kick ASICs off in the case that there were auto Lycos miners on the network would have to go through a proposal, right? And a change, an Ergo improvement proposal would have to be submitted first. But I think there are enough miners that they could probably find somebody within the mining community to submit that. And if that got submitted, we could vote on it and kick the ASICs off. That is definitely potential. Provided the ASICs didn't get spun up enough to take over the network. And then you have the problem of the ASICs having more voting power, which in that case, then have fun with that. Texas A says, at Son of a Tech, any plans to do a vid on how to add Neta to liquidity? Yes, there are plans. Time is something that has been my biggest enemy as of late. GTX 1080 Ti is around 60 to 50 degrees and mining flex with around 50 to 58 solutions a second. This 2070 Super around 49 solutions a second. Those cards that I have there, only one in my price range. Which one to buy? I would go with the newer generation primarily due to the fact that you're going to be a little bit more feature proof for reselling. But, you know, it is what it is. They could resell pretty good, though, in a bull run. 1080 Ti's are probably phasing their way out. Fundum says, outside of a tech, are Octo miners fitted with parallel miner server PSUs? They are fitted with server PSUs. I believe they're HPs, though. But, I mean, some of them are, the ones I checked were HPs. That being said, not like you can buy the HP ones on Parallel Miner, but they don't use the same boards, the breakout boards. Sam says, at Simon Tech, any tips on getting massive guns? Arms? Oh. Just work. Look, man, like I do jujitsu 6 days a week and I lift 3 days a week. And I don't do curls because curls hurt this or make these ligaments weaker and it makes it bad for jujitsu. So I actually don't really do curls. I do a lot of chin-ups though. That being said as well, I'm not going to be rolling for a couple days because I'm now on antibiotics for impetigo on my chin. Best we can tell, somebody didn't clean their gi well enough and in a rear naked choke scraped me up and then gave me impetigo. So if you're not aware, that is basically either staph or strep that gets onto an open sore, and I had an open sore from gi burn on my chin, and so now I can't roll for until it's healed up. So unfortunately, I won't be rolling for about 72 hours, and I'll be having to do probably a regimen to get rid of these antibiotics too. That's where I was at this morning though, is getting that sorted. Luckily I caught it early. I felt it a little sore, so I went ahead and shaved. It hurt like a bitch to shave, and then I was like, oh, that doesn't look good. So went to the minor emergency this morning right away. Dan San says, Ask Tech, ETH difficulty now is 12.17 and hash rate is 788 and profits still suck. Not necessarily. We don't know because none of the APIs are updated. LZ says, Ask Tech, Flux came to an agreement with Presearch, so support will be improved a lot. They added grandfather node support. Good example of Flux getting things done. And let's hope for the Erg Flux partnership. Yeah, a Flux parallel asset on Ergo would be dope. especially if we got a smart pool. You know how cool it would be to have a smart pool to pay out flux if you mined Ergo? That would be dope. Patrick, defense soap is good. Yeah, I have defense soap. I guess I've just been rolling long enough that at some point it was inevitable to a certain extent, right? Luckily, I think my immune system's good enough to where it didn't spread a lot. Like, I've been having the little itch for like a week now, or like the little bumps. But anyways, it is what it is. Patrick says, Ask Time Attack helps with helps with staph. It doesn't hurt the good bacteria. Yep, I'm aware. All right, let's see here. How long did we stream for? We made it in. How long have we been going for? Doesn't ever tell me. Yeah, we did a long stream today. I'm gonna end it. We're going to end it. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll be live again tomorrow. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, notification bell down below so you're notified when we go live. Right now, I'm going to head on over to Locals, and we are going to do a Locals members only stream. So if you want to go hang out over there, I'm going to get that set up. The primary goal of that stream is going to be actually just moving everything that I have currently up on HiveOS to Ethereum and making some decisions surrounding that. So go ahead and head on over there if you want to see what decisions and moves I'm going to make in the short term for my mining farm. And we will be live there in about, let's say we'll go live at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time over on Locals. And we'll do some work there, and then we'll head out from there. Thanks everybody for watching. Check out all the affiliate links down in below, all that good stuff. I appreciate the support immensely, especially through these hard times. I hope that all of you all are having a good one. So, see you there. Oh, it's a oos. I can't wait to roll again. I'm so mad. So mad. See you next Tuesday.